Meteorologist Jim Rinaldi here for Lebanon County Weather. This report sponsored by Now Trending in the Lebanon Valley Mall. And unfortunately, what's now trending is we're now trending towards an ice storm. And at the worst possible time, rush hour of Monday morning. Now this is around 4 a.m. Monday. And you can see there's spotty precipitation here. And, just because this particular map here, and by the way, these maps are all courtesy of Weatherbell. Just because you don't see anything directly in Lebanon County, don't assume that there can't be something if you're out that early. But clearly, the bulk of the precipitation is back in this area back here. Now we'll go forward here. This is 7 a.m. Monday morning, and this pink here, this is all freezing rain. Okay, that pink is freezing rain. The orange is sleet, but the pink is freezing rain. And right now, at this point in time for our area, you can see it's relatively light at that time. But with freezing rain, once things glaze over, it's slippery. It doesn't matter if there's a hundredth of an inch on the roads or an inch on the roads. If it's ice, it's slippery. So that's an issue. We'll go ahead here to 11 a.m. Now we're into moderate to maybe some pockets of heavy freezing rain. And that certainly is not what you want to be seeing at this point in time. Now, one good thing is at these temperatures that we're going to be having, which is probably going to be right around 30 degrees, I think, road salts and things of that nature will work very well. So, if the road crews get out, maybe pre-treat the roads, it could alleviate some of the issues that might otherwise be a problem. But certainly this is not a good look on this map here to see something like that. We go ahead here a little bit further now to 1 p.m. on Monday, and now colder air is starting to work its way in, and we're starting to see freezing rain changing to snow and sleet, and then just some plain rain to the south, with the freezing rain pockets being much more widely separated. So, that's better news at least. And here's our culprit. This here, 1022 millibars, that's the low. That's our low pressure system right there. So this is not a strong system. And I'll show you what's going on here. We can follow it along. It's coming up here. And there it is. It's about 1026 here. And then it deepens to 1026 here and then 1022 here. So this is not a strong system, but what's happening is it's pulling a lot of moisture out ahead of it, and that's overrunning this high pressure system, cold high pressure that's to the north. And when that happens, this is the result. Now let me show you here what the main issue is that we're having here, why this is evolving the way it is into a an ice storm event. And this here is our what we call the thickness. And this here is a thickness between, pretty close to the surface, maybe 100 feet up or something like that, to about 5,000 feet up. This is the 1,850 millibar thicknesses. HPA is just hectopascals. It's just another way of saying millibars. And what we look for here are what we call the critical thicknesses. What that means is that at that number, you have pretty much an equal chance of being rain or some type of frozen precipitation or liquid precipitation or snow at that number. For us here, it's right around 1310. Okay, so take a look here, and we can see we have, this is 1300. So we're below our critical thickness at that point in time. Okay, so that's fine. We'll go ahead here to 7 a.m. and we can see again we're still at about 1300, so we're still below our critical thickness. So that's good. That would indicate snow at that point in time. And again, here we are at 11 a.m. Again, we're hovering around 1300 on this 1,850 millibar thickness, and just looking at that would seem to indicate a good possibility that this would be snow. However, we'll go ahead here. Now, this is the 850, 700 millibar thickness, and this is the thickness from about the layer between about 5,000 feet above our heads to around 10,000 feet above our heads. And the number we want to look for here is around 1550. Now, these go by 20, so we kind of have to estimate that. But here's our 1540 way up here. And here's our 1560. So if you're thinking the 1550 is midway, that's going to be north of us. So we're already above critical thickness at that mid layer. Okay, so what happens there is, and we'll look ahead here, go ahead here. Now you can see the 1560 line has encroached even more towards our area. So we're now clearly going to be above our critical thickness here at 7 a.m. on Monday. And what this does is, and I'll show you another way to look at this in a minute here. But what happens is that the snow is falling from the higher levels. It hits that mid-level layer of warm air and melts, and then it falls into a shallow layer of cold air. And what happens then is it reaches the ground as liquid, but when it hits the ground is still below freezing, and it freezes on contact. I'll show you another way here to look at it. This is called this is a Buff Kit sounding. It's a free program that was developed at the Buffalo National Weather Service, and it's a great forecasting tool. And I can show you very clearly here what I'm talking about as far as the mid-level and low-level temperatures. First of all, here, this line right here, this blue line that I'm kind of sort of drawing along, that's the 0 degree Celsius isotherm. And what that means is that all temperatures this side of it are above freezing, all things this side of it are below freezing. This red line here, squiggly red line, that's the temperature as you're going up in the atmosphere. So look what's going on here, okay? We have, all this is all, below freezing up here. Right here, right along here, gets to be right around the freezing mark. But look what happens here. You have this whole area in here. This whole section here is above freezing. So now you have your snowflakes coming up here, falling down, coming down. All of a sudden it hits this warm layer and it melts. Okay? Once that happens, look what happens though. Now it goes back below freezing in this region here. But then there's now if it stayed below freezing from this point down to the surface, it would be sleet that was falling. But look what happens. Just before you get to the surface, you have this other warm layer, and it's going to melt. Whatever might have started to refreeze in here is going to melt again in here. And you get down here then to the surface, and now clearly you can see we're below freezing. We're about 29, 30 degrees at this point here. And so those liquid raindrops that are up here, it's going to be liquid up in here. Once it gets down here, it's going to hit that surface, and it's a very shallow cold layer, so there's no time for them to refreeze into sleet pellets. It's going to fall to the ground as liquid, but when it hits the ground, it's going to freeze on contact. And there's really not much chance of temperatures going anywhere, because this here, you can see here, here we are at the surface, at this temperature. And then when you go up in the atmosphere and the temperature actually rises. Normally you would expect the temperature to fall the higher you go. But this is what's called an inversion. And when you look at it on a schematic like this, it pretty much looks like a lid. And that's what it does. The temperature gets, things get trapped, the cold air gets trapped underneath it here and really can't go anywhere. So it really does put a lid on our temperatures. And that's what we're looking at with this happening here. And we're back to the beginning. Now, as far as amounts go, right now I'm thinking somewhere in the 1/3 to 1/2 inch of liquid equivalent range. That falls as all ice, or mostly freezing. I think we will change over to snow toward the end as colder air works its way into the mid levels. But, we're talking about, well, even if it's a third, we'll go with the 1/3 of an inch at this point. That's a significant icing event. There was an icing event not that long ago. Some trees and, whatever have already been weakened by that. Yeah, a third of an inch of ice can cause some major disruptions. So just be prepared, and have your candles, whatever emergency kits you have available, ready for you. And if you have a driveway or whatever, you want to salt it before the storm starts. That will help. So just be prepared. Meteorologist Jim Rinaldi for Lebanon County Weather, sponsored by Now Trending in the Lebanon Valley Mall.